Bank of Canada with the pink suits and the ornate halls, and I mean, did it take a while to get used to?
Well, it's a different institution. Part of the tradition here is a real tradition of intellectual leadership and innovation, as you have to have if you have a financial system of the scale that the UK does have. And so you can build on those traditions. And you know, what we've tried to do over the course of the last few years is to modernize them and really create a new type of central bank that has a pretty broad range of powers, but powers that need to work in concert, and that's been part of the fun, if I can put it that way.
Let's talk about something that you said in June, and it's basically about behavior within the financial sector community. So let me bore you with your words for a second, because I think that I find this remarkable, really, when you talk this way. Most troubling have been the numerous incidents of misconduct that exploited such informality, undercutting public trust and threatening systemic stability.
Real markets are necessary for sustainable prosperity. Not markets that collapse when there's a shock from abroad. Not markets where transactions occur in chat rooms. Not markets where no one appears accountable for anything. Real markets are professional and open, not
informal and clubby. Participants in real markets compete on merit rather than collude online. Now, to me that sounds like, it almost sounds like a movie. It sounds like men and women in the back rooms cutting up the cash of investors trying to make decisions based on, things that are going on that they're totally unaware of. Does it really happen that way?
Well, that's not the way it normally happens, and it's certainly not the way it should happen, but it did happen in some cases, and that's totally unacceptable. But what you had was a process that you had some markets where the structure of the markets allowed people to collude online, collude in chat rooms effectively, and fix the price. So there's a structural thing, which that's the easiest bit to change. You change how those prices are actually set, and you reduce the opportunity for collusion. The bigger issue is an attitudinal issue, if I put it that way, which is that, well, what are the codes that govern these markets, and who's responsible for administering those codes? So what we've done in London is that we're in the process of changing the codes for these core markets in ways that go from fat binders of small rules to readily understandable rules of the game for the people who are actually trading in these markets. And then we're making not just those individuals responsible for their actions, but their senior managers, so that they bear the consequences if they haven't trained their people properly, if they're not monitoring them properly, they're not taking action. And all of this is hugely important, because what we saw with misconduct, so-called misconduct in markets, is what's happened is there have been huge fines against the institutions, justifiably so, but relatively few consequences for the individuals. And we want to put individual accountability back in the center.
But I guess what I'm also getting at is, I mean, you worked in New York, you worked in Toronto, you're obviously in Ottawa, now in London, and in each of these cases in the past decade, you've seen varying degrees of different kinds of misconduct going on in the background of private investors' movement of money. I mean, it seems like wherever you go, you're finding these kind of problems.
Well, there are markets. I'm a huge believer in markets, but markets need structure. Markets you can't just leave the market to itself. It has to have proper rules that govern behavior in the markets and the consequences for individuals and for institutions of going offside in those rules. And we all believe in real markets. In real markets, you don't have collusion, you don't cut side deals, you don't go in front of your client, but you compete on merit.
All right. I want to